So the first person we'll be discussing here is Anna Marie Doroghazi. Doroghazi, I think is how it's Doroghazi. And 1981. And she was 20 years old, right? And this one's the one that had the least amount of information. I was able to find one of the only articles on her was when she was found. And it was weird because it didn't show up in earlier searches I was doing, and then I just happened to type in a date, and everything just fell into the right place, and I was able to find her. But it says a woman whose body was found in a roadside ditch outside Camp Dearborn in Milford Township has been identified as Anne Marie Doroghazi, 20, a camp worker who was last seen Saturday, police said, and they said that on Wednesday. The result of an autopsy were not available Wednesday according to the Oakland County morgue. Doroghazi's partially clad body was found by a 15-year-old boy about 20 feet off General Motors Road, less than a half hour after camp employees reported her disappearance to police on Tuesday. Police said Doroghazi was last seen Saturday. A resident of Dearborn, she lived in a trailer on the campgrounds when she worked. Police said the camp, about 50 miles northwest of Detroit, is operated by the city of Dearborn for its residents and their guests. Milford Police Chief Ronald Averill asked that anyone who may have seen Doroghazi Saturday night or Sunday call police. And I'm sure that number is no good anymore. But when she left the camp, Doroghazi, who was blonde, 5 feet 9 inches tall, and weighed about 145 pounds, was wearing blue jeans, a print blouse, and a pale blue windbreaker with bright yellow trim. The murder of Anne Marie Doroghazi, 20, is one in which instead police have a suspect, but again, insufficient evidence to make a case. Doroghazi was, you know what I've found? That these cases that are cold and they have this suspect they just weren't able to make a case on, how many of those have turned out to be right when they use genealogy? I would say 99% are not right. They go, wow, yeah, the person we thought it was all these years had nothing to do with it. Doroghazi was living and working at Camp Dearborn in Milford, and without a car, she would often walk along General Motors Road. That's this road right here. And this is, first I put a pin on General Motors Road. This is the camp, and you can see right here there's all these little trailers, and it's just, it looks like it doesn't have anything on it anymore. Look at that. At one point there was obviously people living here. I don't think there's anybody living there now. I don't even know if these are occupied or what's going on, but definitely, let's see what it looked like maybe 1999. Yeah, see, you can see that there's actual, it looks like there's residents on there at least back then. Yeah, I think those were all homes at one point, and now these are just the foundations of those homes. There's no buildings there anymore. That's crazy, right? So anyways, this is where she worked, and she would leave that area and then walk down General Motors Road, and then would go to this gas station right here to get cigarettes. And let's see, and pop. So she went down the road, General Motors Road, to a nearby gas station. This is the nearest gas station that I could find going this way down the road. There's none the other direction from the camp. Doesn't appear to be an area where there'd be gas stations. They're further away, it looks like. And I don't know if there's a gas station anywhere along this route, but there was one going the other way, so I'm assuming it was that direction, like this. There's a gas station there. She was last seen alive Monday, September 27th, 1981, in Milford. 2 days later, her partially clothed body was found in a ditch off General Motors Road, west of Martindale Road. She had been strangled, and her purse, which contained money, was discovered nearby. So it had nothing to do with robbery. A request for comment regarding the case was not returned by the Milford police. So you just go down this direction, and that direction they were just saying was, this is Martinville Road. It was west on General Motors Road. So it's in a ditch off General Motors Road, west of Martinville Road. So I don't know if it's on this side or that side, but let's just say, it could very well be on this side because that would be the direction. So either way, a ditch off to the side, you can kind of just see this would be a perfect place to drive, throw a body back there, and nobody's going to find it. I mean, look at that. Just, this side looks a little bit more like you might be able to see it. But over here, maybe not, certain time of year. But it seems like it was just a quick ditch, and they weren't concerned about DNA or anything, and didn't think it would lead back to them because there's probably no connection with them and the person. Okay, now here's another write-up in here. The partially clothed body of 20-year-old Anna Marie Doroghazi was found in the morning of September 29, 1981. In the morning. The investigation determined that she had been killed at an unknown location sometime between September 27th and September 28th. She was discovered in a ditch near Camp Dearborn off of General Motors Road and west of Martindale Road in the township of Milford. The Oakland County medical examiner said she had been strangled. It is believed robbery was not a motive, as her purse containing money was found near the body. All right, so there you go. Crazy. And just one of these cases that hardly any news on it at all back then, and it's never been solved to this day. Hopefully, these are the cases that obviously she was sexually assaulted, and hopefully they stored any sort of DNA that she may have had. Okay, now we're moving on to the 1982 case of Kimberly, I think it's Louiselle, and this is what she looks like. Right there. And she was only, I believe, 16 at the time. The nude body of a 16-year-old South Lyons girl who had been missing for 3 weeks was found Wednesday by a couple walking their dogs, State Police in Brighton said Thursday. The body of Kimberly Louiselle was found in a field behind a parking lot at Ground River and Kensington in the Island Lake Recreation Area in Green Oaks Township. The girl was reported missing on March 21st by her parents and was assumed to be a runaway. Anyone with information on the teenager's disappearance or death should call the state police. All right, that was one of the first articles out there. And what's weird is where she was found, they found a bunch of dynamite. I mean, I don't think it's related at all. They said it's not. It's just strange that they found a bunch of dynamite in that very same park that she was found in. Something like 50 sticks of it. They said 41 here, but it got larger, the number, later. Dynamite gone, park reopened. The Island Recreation Area reopened Saturday after authorities removed all live charges of dynamite they believe were left in the park. State police closed the recreation area near Brighton on Friday as 57 live charges were retrieved from shallow holes, said John Odell, the park manager. The charges were 4 or 5 inch portions of dynamite sticks, and most were armed with electric blasting caps. Troopers detonated 41 of the dynamite charges during the day. No injuries were reported in the 4,000-acre southeastern Michigan park located about 40 miles northwest of Detroit. The dynamite was discovered Thursday as police searched for clues in the sexual assault and strangulation death of Kimberly Louiselle, 16, of South Lyon. A couple walking through the park discovered the body of the girl, but did not notice the dynamite. Jesus. The girl's death is not related to the dynamite, they said. He said the charges were believed left in the ground by Kangio Inc. of Maryville, a seismic firm searching for oil. That's about as negligent of something I've ever heard in my life. The firm had 2 permits from the State Department of Natural Resources to do the work, according to DNR Park Reservoir Park Supervisor Jack Butterfield. A spokesman for the company, who declined to give his name, said he was not acquainted with the situation and declined further comment. The charges were planted only 6 to 20 inches deep when they should have been buried at least 5 feet below ground, Schmidt said. Okay, so maybe you're supposed to bury them and they can test for, you know, like, I don't know what they were testing. It said seismic company, but they weren't, it wouldn't hurt anybody if it was 5 feet below the ground, I guess. They set the holes and they never set off the charges. We don't know why, Schmidt said. It's a little bit bizarre. Yeah, that they're saying. It's a little bit bizarre. Something like that shouldn't happen, he said. Safe practices call for the charges to be set off the same day they are buried. Yeah, that makes sense. A little bit weird. Miss Louiselle left home to visit a boyfriend on March 18th. So on March 18th, she left her house and went to visit a boyfriend and helped him move from Redford Township to Detroit. The teenager was there until March 21st, when her boyfriend's cousin called the Louiselle home in South Lyon to say Kimberly would be there soon. All right, let's see. I think I did actually find her house. And I think this is where she lived, and it makes sense. It's right here. Let's see what it looked like. I don't know if it's still... It looked like that before, a long time ago, because these kind of look new, almost like... This doesn't look like... Let's see. Let me put the... Go back in time and just look. Yeah, that's 1999, so even then that looked similar, I guess. When her boyfriend's cousin called the Louiselle home in South Lyon to say Kimberly would be there soon. Kimberly's boyfriend's brother, see, this guy must have felt bad his whole life, gave her a ride to Merriman and 8 Mile Road. Miss Louiselle said it was there the teenager was last seen walking west on 8 Mile. So instead of the guy driving her home, you know, it could be that she said, hey, can you let me out here? I'm going to go to the store or something. So she was let out right here on 8 Mile Road. And then this is Sunnydale Street. Isn't that the name of, isn't that rap? The movie, isn't there a movie called 8 Mile? I wonder if that's the same. Kimberly's boyfriend's brother gave her a ride to Merriman and 8 Mile Road. Miss Louiselle said, that's what she said. And then it was there the teenager was last seen walking west on 8 Mile in the direction of home. And see, that's why I think that is her home. I found somebody, a 1988 address of her father. And if you look, you would walk that direction. And she lives right there. And let's see how far that is. I bet you that's 3 or 4 miles. That's almost 6, but that is the direction. She would walk down this way and then cut across and get over there. Just seems like a long ways to drop somebody off unless they actually asked to be dropped off there. Police theorize Miss Louiselle may have been picked up by a motorist, but they don't know how she ended up strangled and beaten in a field in the Island Lake Recreation Area in Livingston County, about 7 miles from her home. Miss Louiselle was born in Elkhart, Indiana, several months before the family moved to Westland, her mother said. 4 years ago, the family moved to South Lyon. So her body was found here. So let's see. And they say 7 miles. Is that about right? I got that at 13. But here's the thing, she was found right here. There's this park and ride, I guess, like a ride sharing place, and it's still there. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's right at this intersection. She was found in a parking area, and I guarantee it, that's it. And it's also part of that large park that they're talking about. This whole area is part of that park. And I think it's right there. The part that bothered me the most about this is what I have highlighted down there. But let me get to the rest of it first. Investigators from several police agencies involved believe that once they determine the whereabouts of Kimberly Louiselle between March 20th and Easter weekend, they will be able to answer the remaining questions. The South Lyon High School sophomore was last seen near 8 Mile and Merriman Roads in Livonia on March 20th, according to police. On March 21st, she was reported missing to the Green Oak Township Police Department by her parents. Last Wednesday, more than 3 weeks later, Louiselle's nude body was found in a thicket in the Island Lake Recreation Area just south of a commuter lot at Grand River Avenue and Kensington Road. Okay, so if you go to that area, this is Grand River and this is Kensington, commuter lot just south. So I think that's exactly where she was found. And doesn't that make sense? You abduct her at night. There's nobody in the commuter lot at that time of night because it's for commuting to work. So the killer drives her in here, probably assaults her and kills her, and then maybe he's even already parked here, and then just takes her body out of the car, dumps her in the woods, gets back in his car, and goes off to wherever the hell he went after that. Does that make sense? And what it looks like, they actually drove into there slightly, so you Google Earth, and look how old the Google Earth shot is. Now look at that. You pull in back there and just drag her back here. Nobody's going to walk back there. I didn't see that. That was weird. It was totally different looking. Yeah, no, it looks the same over the years. Look how it moved the map a little bit. And that moved back to where it's supposed to be. See, that looks shorter. That looked about like Street View looked. And look at that. It's 2005. It looks like they let it grow over there. 2005. Yeah, so it's shorter. Still a commuter lot. And now look at that. Boom. They made it really long. So, I mean, I'm going to go with that it was shorter back in the day. Yeah. Okay. It's a bit different. So notice how they made it really nice and long and organized. So actually her body was probably found more here because it used to only go to there. But we'll just keep it where it was about. An autopsy conducted at Sparrow Hospital in Lansing indicated that the girl had been sexually molested, beaten, and strangled prior to being dropped in the state park. Now this part down here bothers me. It says, the medical examiner said the autopsy indicated that Louiselle had been dead approximately 4 to 6 days before she was found. You know, she was missing for 3 weeks. So what in the hell was going on for those 2.5 weeks? Or, 2 to 2.5 weeks before her body was found. Because that's what they're saying. She was missing since March. I think it was March. Hold on, let me get the... She was missing since, yes, March 20th. And she was found right around, I think it was the 14th, 13th, something like that. And she was only dead for 4 to 6 days. And wow, okay, so that means that she was alive, captive somewhere. Exactly. It's crazy. So that sort of doesn't mean then that, but it's just so strange that she's found right there. But look how far away that is from where she was last seen, right there, all the way to there. So that person could have had her anywhere. And this location here has no rhyme or reason to her or anything. It was just a place that he probably felt like, yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering too if they just got that wrong, and maybe her body was preserved because it's pretty cold in Michigan in mid-March, especially back then. Okay, so I don't know, because it does seem like a perfect place to actually do the assault and dump her body, but it sounds now like he just dumped her body there. But why would he choose a place with that much time to think about it, that literally people do park at a whole bunch? I mean, a lot of people park there. So you'd think you would have picked a place that's a little bit more just out in the middle of nowhere. Anyways, it's just crazy. And so that was an 82, April 21st, 1982 article. And then here's one from, I'm not sure that's her, let's see, yeah, from 1983. And this is one that starts mentioning other people at this point. Alright, so this is 1984. And this is her segment in this article that's mentioning 3 different people that have gone missing. So on March 20th, 1982, 16-year-old Kimberly Louiselle was last seen near 8 Mile and Merriman Roads in Livonia. On April 14th, nearly 3 weeks later, her nude body was found in a thicket in the Island State Recreation Area. So that means if she was found on April 4th, that means they believe she was killed on April 8th to April 10th, even though she went missing on March 20th. An autopsy performed on the body found that Louiselle, a sophomore at South Lyon High School who lived in Green Oak, had been dead 4 to 6 days, so they're still saying this even 2 years later, before her body was discovered. Strangulation was ruled the cause of death. The girl had also been sexually molested. Louiselle, who had a history of running away from home, called her parents from Detroit on March 20th and told them that she was planning to return home by bus later that day. At the time, she was with her boyfriend's brother. Her plans changed when her boyfriend's brother dropped her off at 6 Mile and Merriman, near where her boyfriend lived. Her boyfriend's brother then saw her get into another car. Well, that's kind of weird. Why'd you drop her off there, though? Louiselle was last seen by a female acquaintance who saw her walking near 8 Mile and Merriman. Was last seen by a female... So she got in the car with somebody else and then dropped off again? So anyway, there's just so few details about this one. And then it appears again in 1997 in another article. She's just one of the people mentioned in this one. Right down here. A 16-year-old frequent runaway, Kimberly Louiselle, came home for good on April 14th, 1982. After running away from her Green Oak Township home, Louiselle called her parents from Detroit on March 20th to tell them she was coming home. She never made it. Louiselle's dead body was found by hikers in a thicket near a carpool lot in the Island Lake Recreation Area in Green Oak. An autopsy revealed Louiselle, who was last seen at 6 Mile and Grand River Avenue in Redford, had been sexually molested and then strangled to death. Police believe Louiselle was killed sometime between April 8th and the 14th. See, that is crazy, man. But have never determined where she was murdered. State police still have one suspect in the case, a man currently serving a prison sentence on another homicide. But Louiselle's murder remains unsolved after almost 15 years, and it's still unsolved to this day. So again, it seems like, oh, they got this guy, they think it is. And if they ever had DNA and it's tested and it's him, that's great, but it'll probably end up being somebody else. So that's Kimberly Louiselle, and she was 16. That was 1982. Okay, now the third one we're going to talk about is Christina Lynn Castiglione. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that's an Italian name. And this one had more articles than the other ones. Yeah, it'd be cool if you could drive by the actual parking lot there, but it's totally different now than it was, so it wouldn't look the same. I actually think that street view shot, which we were looking at right here, is accurate. Because look how long that lot is, right? Well, check this out. When you go down to street view here, yeah, I mean, look at that. This is what it looked like back then. Now, when you get out onto the road, it's probably a newer street view, and now it's the long lot there. So this street view here is August 2019, so 6-7 months ago, right? But as soon as you go this direction, the Google Earth guy hasn't gone there in a few years, because when you go over here, this is 2009, and then look how short that is. That's what it looked like back then. And so maybe even before there were more trees right there, but you can just see right there, look how short that is. It probably only went to about right there. They added all that extra space. A 19-year-old Redford Township woman, and this case right here is Christina Lynn Castiglione, and she's only 19 years old. A Redford Township woman, missing since Saturday, and since she was missing Saturday, this is the 25th, so probably around the 20th of March 1983. She may have been the half-naked woman. See, this is something that they thought somebody did notice this, but it turns out it probably wasn't her. May have been. This is when she was just missing at this point. So a 19-year-old Redford Township woman missing since Saturday may have been the half-naked woman seen by 3 witnesses on an Inkster Street corner Sunday evening, police said. Police said a couple saw a young woman with her hands tied behind her back at the corner of Inkster Road and Annapolis at 6:30 p.m. Sunday, and another woman at the same spot at about the same time reported seeing a woman get into a green Cadillac with a rusted rear end. Let's see. A man and a woman told Inkster police about 6:30 p.m. Sunday they had just seen a white woman wearing only beige bikini, underwear, and orange socks with her hands tied behind her back standing at the southwest corner of Inkster and Annapolis. And so, all of these cases are kind of in the same area here. So this is where they say she was spotted, right there, in this area. And if you go down the street view, it'd be weird, right? Somebody standing in this area with their hands tied behind her back. And Castiglione is described as 5'8", 130 pounds, with brown shoulder-length, naturally curly hair, and with a small scar on her lower lip. And that was on March 25th. And then March 31st, just 6 days later, Body of missing woman found. Family members Wednesday identified a young woman, partially clad body, found in a rural area of Livingston County as Christina Lynn Castiglione, 19, who had been missing for 19 days from her Redford Township home. A Livingston County Sheriff's Department spokesman said the body, clothed only in a shirt, was discovered at 1:30 p.m. Tuesday by a man strolling on state-owned land in Cohocton Township, 45 miles north of her home. Probably Cohocton, I don't know. Hard to, some of these township names, man, I tell you. Results of an autopsy late Wednesday afternoon were not available, but Redford Township Police Chief Michael Minogue said she definitely had been murdered, though he did not know how, and may have been sexually abused. There were no gunshot wounds, he said. Minogue said snow clinging to the body indicated that she was slain soon after she disappeared on March 11th, and that she was not the bound, half-nude woman 3 witnesses reported seeing 10 days later. So they're saying that wasn't her now. The one that was, bound at that intersection, okay? I just wanted to show you that came out in the news. Her boyfriend, whose name has been withheld, told Redford Township Police he last saw her at 8 p.m. March 11th hitchhiking along 5 Mile Road. So now there's a 5 Mile Road. Described by friends as a popular, athletic young woman who liked to repair cars, Castiglione, a 1980 Redford Union High School graduate, was a clerk for a temporary office, help company under contract at the downtown office of Detroit. A neighbor, Gail Goodhue, described Castiglione as a quiet young woman. She liked to play ball, baseball, and kickball, and she'd come down here and swim in our pool. And family members Wednesday identified a young woman's partially clad body found in a rural area of Livingston County as Christina Lynn Castiglione. A Livingston County Sheriff's Department spokesperson said the body, clothed only in a t-shirt, was discovered at 1:30 p.m. Tuesday by a man strolling on state-owned land. I don't know if that's the same article as the other one. Kind of looks similar. It's not the... Yeah, very similar wording, so I'm just going to move on to the next. It has a different title anyways. So she was a hitchhiker, it says. Livingston County Sheriff's deputies and Redford Township Police are jointly investigating the apparent murder of a missing Redford Township woman whose body was found north of Howell Tuesday afternoon. Police say the body of Christina Lynn Castiglione, 19, was found in a wooded area west of Fisher Road and just north of Fawcett Road. Okay, so this is how I'm interpreting this. She was found in a wooded area west of Fisher Road. All right, so I'll read it as we're doing it. This is Fisher Road, so it's got to be on this side, west, right? And just north of Fawcett Road. And this is Fawcett Road, so it's on this side, north of that road, and it's so I'm just putting it's right here, somewhere probably right in this area, right there. And if you go down the street view here, I mean, look at that. I mean, you threw a body in there, it's a miracle to find that body. Castiglione was last seen alive about 8:30 p.m. March 19th while hitchhiking on 5 Mile Road west of Telegraph Road, authorities said. So, keep in mind that's where that is. And this is where she went hitchhiking. They just said west of this road, so I don't know how far west they're talking about, but apparently right there. And then she ends up being found way over here. I think it's how many miles it is. Yeah, 38 miles as the crow flies right there. The woman's body was clothed only in a shirt She may have been sexually abused. There were no gunshot wounds on the body. Snow on the woman's body indicated she was killed soon after she disappeared. Now, this is when I was looking into some of these cases where they're comparing them to other ones. The victim's autopsy results. Livingston County Sheriff detectives were awaiting Tuesday for the results. The victim, Christina Lynn Castiglione, had been missing since March 19th when a Northville man discovered the woman's partially clothed body March 22nd, about 75 yards west of Fisher. Okay, now we can get more specific here. 75 yards west of Fisher and Fawcett Roads. Okay, so west of Fisher. It's hard to be west of a road that is parallel with it. Okay, so that's 75 yards. I'll just put this about where that is. And that actually makes total sense. If you just look how crappy how hard it would be to find somebody in there. And I guarantee it looked like that back then. No doubt about it. Probably, maybe even worse, because nowadays people clean roads better. 22 yards west of Fisher and Fawcett Road in Cohatuck Township. DeBurton said investigators believe Castiglione was on her way home when she was last seen by her boyfriend, who was riding in a car that passed her on the highway. Oh, wow. So they know where they dropped her off. They just drove by her. She was last seen by her boyfriend, who was riding in a car that passed her on the highway. The boyfriend got out of the car a few blocks later to wait for her, DeBurton said, but the woman never arrived. Well, that's creepy. So he didn't drop her off. He was just driving by and saw her and then stopped his car and was going to sort of surprise her, I bet. DeBurton said the woman was either hitchhiking or walking along the road before she disappeared. Castiglione's body was found in a recessed area off Fisher and Fawcett Roads in a wooded state game area by a Northville man who told police he was looking for deer. The man told deputies he had been in the area earlier that day fishing. Investigators found the clothes that were not on the woman in the immediate area where they found her body. Wow, so she was probably... Well, I don't know if that means she was assaulted there. They could have dumped the body and just threw the clothes as well. The sheriff's department contacted Redford Township Police after discovering the body matched a description of Castiglione. The body was later identified to be her by her parents. DeBurton said investigators could see no immediate visible signs of physical force on the body. Time and cause of death are not to be determined by an autopsy. DeBurton said Monday that the autopsy report had been completed and was being mailed to the sheriff's department, but that he didn't know what the results were. It also wasn't known Monday if she was sexually assaulted, DeBurton said. The sheriff said the method of killing is similar to that seen in the unsolved murder last year of Kimberly Louiselle, a 16-year-old South Lyon Township girl. It was found nude. Like Castiglione, Louiselle's body was found in a wooded state game area after she was last seen walking along a highway. Yeah, it's very, 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 very similar. Louiselle was last seen alive March 20th, 1982, a year minus a day before Castiglione disappeared. Louiselle had been left there by her boyfriend, police said. Another similarity may be an intended sexual assault. So now the autopsy results have come out. I love newspapers.com because it's different. They have so much more information than you get now. An autopsy performed on a 19-year-old Redford woman found dead March 29th in a wooded state game area north of Howell revealed the woman died from strangulation, according to the Livingston County Sheriff's Department. It is not known what the woman, Christina Lynn Castiglione, was strangled with, but DeBurton said his office received about the middle of last week the results of the autopsy that was performed on March 30th. DeBurton said it is suspected the woman was sexually molested, but that authorities are still awaiting further test results. DeBurton said investigators have no suspects yet and are following leads in Redford Township. Redford Township police have received a few tips, DeBurton said, but none have panned out. The autopsy also revealed the woman died sometime between the evening of March 19th and before it started snowing the next day, which DeBurton said was about 4 p.m. See, I think it's interesting that she was found so quickly, put into such an area that you wouldn't have found her for months. And I think it was also interesting to police, as you'll see a little bit later. Investigators believe Castiglione was on her way home when she was last seen by her boyfriend, who was riding in a car that passed her on the highway. The boyfriend got out of the car a few blocks later to wait for her. DeBurton said, but the woman never arrived. DeBurton said the woman was either hitchhiking or walking. Castiglione's partially clothed body was found in a recessed area off Fisher and Fawcett Roads in a wooded state game area by a Northville man who told authorities he was looking for deer, the sheriff said. The man told deputies he had been there in the area fishing earlier in the day. I wonder why he would even mention that, right? Investigators believe Castiglione was on her way home when she was last seen by her boyfriend, right? The man told deputies he had been in the area fishing earlier in the day. No immediate signs of physical force on the body were apparent. Authorities found the clothes not on Castiglione in the immediate area where the body was found, so just right next to her. That Castiglione was strangled is another similarity investigators have noticed between this case and the death of 16-year-old Kimberly Louiselle, a South Lyon High School sophomore whose nude body was found in Green Oak Township. Louiselle's body was also found in a wooded state game area after she was last seen walking along a highway. So now you got that similarity. They have interviewed about 20 suspects and even have enlisted the help of a self-proclaimed Redford psychic. Oh, God. I hate how when they word it like that, as if, wow, they've even got a psychic in here? That's great. But police now have no better idea of what led to Castiglione's death and who killed her than they did in late March, when a man taking an afternoon walk in the woods discovered the teenager's semi-nude body. We've not had much luck on this case so far, said Livingston County Detective Robert Bizot, who was heading the investigation. He said police widely distributed photographs of Castiglione in the area where she was last seen and in the Livingston County near where her body was found. We ran down a lot of leads, but we don't know when we'll get close to an arrest. Nobody saw anything. And this is in that same article from earlier that there was the other two were mentioned in. It happened almost exactly a year later, and the murder of 19-year-old Christina Lynn Castiglione in March of 1983 bore stark resemblance to the killing of Kimberly Louiselle. Both were teenage females. Both were last spotted in suburban Detroit. Both were strangled. Both bodies were dumped in wooded state recreation areas. Because of all the similarities, police still believe the two murders might somehow be connected. Detective Bob Bizot of the Sheriff's Department still works on the Castiglione case 2 or 3 times a week. Castiglione, a resident of Redford, was last spotted on March 19th near 5 Mile and Telegraph. She was believed to be on her way home when her boyfriend who was driving spotted her. The boyfriend, yeah, we know that part. Her body was found 3 days later in a wooded area. I thought it was found like the next day. The body was found by Northville man who said he was hunting in the area. Okay, so this is 4 years later. It is March 29th, 1983, and Livingston County Sheriff Detective Robert Bazat is searching a wooded area in Cohocton Township for clues to a murder. A man looking for deer has stumbled upon the half-naked body of a young woman. Bazat is first on the scene and talks briefly with the man as he waits for the other detectives to arrive. The body will later be identified as Christina Lynn Castiglione of Redford, missing since March 19th when her boyfriend saw her hitchhiking on 5 Mile Road. She has been raped and strangled. As he uncovers the clues surrounding her disappearance and death, Bazat will begin to suspect that the man who found the body is the murderer. You see that? Because like he was fishing there, and then he wanted to let people know, well, I was here earlier, just so it wouldn't be weird that his car was spotted. See, that's what I got from that when he said that he was there fishing earlier, and then, oh yeah, and then I went back looking for deer. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And you're trying to say that you were there fishing, possibly, to explain why somebody might have seen your car there earlier. All right, so it says right here, as he uncovers the clues surrounding her disappearance and death, I don't know if it's Bazotti or Bazat, will begin to suspect that the man who found the body is the murderer. He will believe, as he does 4 years later, that he only lacks the evidence needed to prove his hunch, and he waits. And this is probably the most detailed article. So now it's April 29th, 1987, and Bob Bazzotti, let's call it, is sitting in the interrogation room at the Livingston County Sheriff's Department. In front of him are 3 large notebooks filled with information about Christina Castiglione's disappearance and death. He reaches in and pulls out a slip of paper, a profile of a man recently arrested for a similar crime in Oakland County. The profile came from the Law Enforcement Information Network and was given to him by one of his deputies. It's a lead on a suspect who could be connected to the crime. More than 4 years have passed since Christina Castiglione was found dead, but the Livingston County Sheriff's Department hasn't given up on solving her case. Even 4 years later, this is what we're doing, Bazat said. This case will never be forgotten. Homicide cases are not forgotten. To help him remember, Bazat keeps a picture of her and an attractive, dark-haired girl on his desk and reminds him to do a little bit of work on the case every month, he says. It kind of reminds me of a case, and you never forget a case you can't bring to court, he said. It kind of reminds you to do something on this case every day. Even if he can't do something every day, it's never far from his mind. This case hasn't dropped, he said. I'd almost venture to guess in a month period we do 2 or 3 follow-ups on it. Bazat said he and the other Sheriff's Department detectives worked intensively on the case for the first 2 weeks after finding the body, but few clues turned up, probably because the body had been in the woods for about 10 days before they found it. What are you talking about? I thought she was found a day after. Am I just not remembering this right? She was found like the next day and there was snow on her. I don't know. That's not correct. I think he's probably just misremembering now, or the writer is. The police, both in Livingston County, said Redford put out a request for tips, but few came in. After the first week, when no tips came in, then it was basically myself and John Creed. Yeah, I think that's just a mistake. It's not a quote by him. It's Bazat estimates they talked to 200 to 300 people. Most of the information in their case notebook is the result of that legwork, he said. For not having very many tips, there was a lot of paperwork and interviews generated by police work. the detectives have also compiled 50 or more profiles of serial killers and known sexual offenders just in case. It's quite extensive, Bazat says, as he flips through them. Anybody that is connected in any way with any type of violent crime you checked out. An autopsy revealed that Castiglione had been sexually assaulted and then partially strangled. What the pathologist indicated was that it appeared to him that she was left there to sort of fend for herself. Weird. Castiglione disappeared March 19th. On March 20th, it snowed, and the combination of the exposure to the cold and the partial strangulation killed her, he said. Maybe the motive was just rape and not homicide. She disappeared March 19th. On March 20th, it snowed, and the combination... See, I thought it said that she went missing on March 11th, they said, so maybe it was later. March 11th. On March 20th, it snowed, and the combination of the exposure to the cold and the partial strangulation killed her. Maybe the motive was just rape and not homicide. And with the snow, she died of a combination of strangulation and exposure. If we find the guy... Well, he must have strangled her so hard that she was unconscious and never really gained conscious. Because if she had woken up, she would have crawled out to the road or something. Okay, so... I mean, I think he tried to kill her. I think it's pretty obvious. He might have thought he killed her because she was limp. And he just threw her there, didn't realize that she was still alive. I think, doesn't that sound way more likely? And then, oh wow, he didn't mean to kill her. Yeah, shut the hell up. He's checked out many suspects, but the clues continue to point to the man who discovered the body. There were several inconsistencies in his story that leads me to believe that he got something to hide. The man has also been uncooperative in helping clear himself, including refusing to take a polygraph examination and having to be forced to take a blood test. Hopefully they have DNA then, because that seems like that would be a reason you might be doing that. And if they do, hopefully they're doing those tests right now to find out who the hell the killer is. This guy, for somebody who didn't do something and wanted to be cleared on a homicide case, went against everything. The man had agreed to take a polygraph exam to prove his innocence, and one was scheduled. But when the time for the appointment came, he backed out. When you find someone, it's pretty interesting that he's going after this guy in an article. They normally don't do that. When you find someone who won't take a polygraph test, you start looking at them like they've got something to hide. Or they're just people that think that you might twist what their polygraph test says. I mean, they're not... Here's the thing, is they're not usable in court, so why do you even do them anymore? Is it just a psychological thing to say, hey, take the test, and if they say no, you go, oh, see, you have something to hide. Right? When you find someone who won't take a polygraph test, you start looking at them like they've got something to hide. Bazette said he has considered other suspects, but keeps returning to this one. You mean like tunnel vision? We've done a lot of interviews on this case, he said. We haven't been stuck on this guy. He does sound suspicious, though, to be honest with you. Like he makes sure to say, yeah, I was out here fishing earlier. Oh, well, now I'm out here looking for deer. Why would you even mention that you were here earlier? All you would say was, yeah, I was out looking for deer and I came across your body. The only reason you mention that you were here earlier is just in case there's a witness that saw your car, and then that would explain why they saw your car that time. And by the way, let's take a look at that. I didn't even think of that. Where's the nearest creek? Is that like he went fishing in that pond over there? Is that... Like, where the hell was he fishing? Maybe that's something they should have asked him. Yeah, that's great, sir, but where the hell were you fishing? Yeah, as a detective, you try not to Yeah, let's see. We haven't been stuck on this guy, but in the back of my mind, I've always suspected it. Well, that means you are stuck on it. As a detective, you try not to get stuck on one thing, but I keep coming back to him. And maybe because he's, out of all the people they've talked to, is the most suspicious. So he waits for the clue, the missing piece of the puzzle, that will give him the proof he needs to take the case to court. Well, sounds like you all already have that. Don't you have the DNA? That's what this is. You've got a big puzzle sitting there, and the piece is there. You just never know, or you just never know when you're going to find it, he said. So there you go. There's that. And that was 1987, 1989. Group hopes to solve murders. And again, she's mentioned in here, along with, so you've got Anna Marie Doroghazi, Christina Lynn Castiglione, and I'm not sure if those are the only two mentioned here, but those are two of the ones that, oh yeah, and there's Kimberly Louiselle, right? So all three of them are mentioned again in this article, 1989. Thank you, Meredith McKenzie. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is I think they're probably on, they probably have pretty good reasons to look at who they're looking at. Here's something I thought was weird, though. Let me see if I can find that again. But here, look how weird this is, though. So this was that house, and it's literally 5 blocks down the road from the Anna Marie Doroghazi case, where her body was found. You know, where she worked at the Camp Dearborn there. So I just thought that was weird. I don't know for sure if that is related, but it's the only Castiglione that I could find in that area. And my God, it's like 5 blocks down the road from where one of the other girls' bodies was found. I mean, look at that. When you go up in the air, they're just right next to each other. And it's just, I don't know, I found that odd. So you guys might want to check that out. I didn't find any reference to her parents' names, so I just put her last name in, and it was in the same town. So that made me think, well, gosh, this probably is related. I mean, how many Castigliones are there in that little town there? And there wasn't many at all, really. There was just 2 or 3 people, and this one was 90-something years old, so I figured, well, maybe it's the grandfather or the dad, who maybe was, let's say her dad was 38 years old when she was born, which is very common. And then, you know, he's 94 now, something like that. That makes sense to me. Yeah, so that'd be 56 years ago when she was born, but if he's 94, I guess he could be 42, something like that. So that's all I'm saying. I think this could be the father. It just made sense. It's right in the same area and literally right there, but it was only a quarter of a mile from where Anna Marie Doroghazi's body was found 2 years prior. What are the odds of that? Now here in 2018, there was a podcast that shines light on local murders, and it's the same 3. So that's what was so weird. I was actually looking at these 3 because of those early 1980 articles bringing them up, and then somebody else must have done the same thing.